Hello students, welcome into the another session of CS02 programming in C. As all of you knows that we are discussing about UDF, that is user defined function, which consists of 4 different types. Apart from all 4 types, in our previous 2 lectures we have completed with the 3 different types, and in today's session we are going to discuss about the last type of UDF which we can implement in programming in C, that is function without argument, without return value. As indicated previously, whenever we are implementing the user defined function, 4 things we have to keep in our mind, that is function prototype, second is function call, third is function initialization, and fourth is its return type, that means function return type. By keeping this for subsections of function without argument, without return value, we can implement, or we are going to implement 2 examples. One is to find out the maximum of 2 value, and by modifying some portion of the entire program we can convert it into the minimum. We have kept these 2 programs common for all the previous types because easily you can compare by changing or what are the changes in all the topics we can observe. So let's start with the practical session about the function without argument, without return value. In this UDF type, as indicated into the definition, we don't have to pass any argument, even we don't have to return any arguments, which makes this particular type of concept that is called as function without argument, without return value. Now if you remember, then in my previous 2 lectures I have indicated that whenever the return type is not null, that means whenever the return type is not there, at that particular time we need to declare the function return type as a void. So here I am writing void, then the name of function, and into the bracket we no need to pass any arguments, so bracket remains same. This is the function prototype for function without argument, without return value. Then after the function prototype declaration, there is a statement called void main. It's a main executable statement of the entire program, in which directly I am calling the function that is max. I am not declaring any local variables, as well as I am not declaring any external output variables. Simply there is a function call into the void main statement. So this is the second step for function without argument, without return value. Third step is function initialization. So here I am initializing the function with a return type called void, then the name of function is max, into the bracket no need to declare any dummy arguments because we have not passed actual arguments. Then into the bracket of this initialized function, here let me write function initialization. Into the function initialization section, as a local variable I am declaring 3 variables, that is a, b and c, where a and b is the input variable and c is the output variable. Then here I am writing my basic function called clrscr for clearing the internal buffers of the screen, which stores the refreshed output for the entire program. After that there is a printf statement. In the printf statement I am giving the label called enter your first value, then scanf statement %d, comma ampersand a, which reads and store the first value for entire program. Then printf, enter your second value, scanf percentage d ampersand p, which read and stores the second value for the entire program. Then I am writing the decision making statement. If a is greater than b, that means if a is maximum, then it prints maximum is percentage d comma a, else printf maximum is percentage d comma b, and at last there is a closing bracket, that is get ch. Now let me check first for the syntactical errors. As you can see that there are no syntactical error onto the screen, so we can proceed for the second phase of executing the program by running the code. As you can see that onto the screen, it asks for the first value. Say for example, I am entering 6 as a first value and 3 as a second value. Ultimately the condition becomes true. It prints the maximum is 6 onto the screen as per the logic of the entire program, and 6 is there onto the screen, so this sequence is correct. Now for the cross verification purpose, I am just interchanging the value of a and b. Say for example, suppose I am entering the value of a is equals to 3 and I am entering the value of b is equals to 9. The condition becomes false and the maximum will be print 9 onto the screen. So it's correct as per the sequence and the logic of the program. Now let's see this program in Notepad for better visibility. So I'm going into the my computer, C drive, Turbo C, disk, Turbo C3 bin, and I have saved this particular program as a 3.c. So let me open the code. Once the code is open, you can see the entire code into the Notepad. First two lines are common, which are the library statements like standard input output.h and console input output.h. Then I have written the function prototype. As per the theory, return function without return we have to use, so that's why I have mentioned the void statement, and we don't have to pass any arguments. So after declaring the function into the bracket, there are no arguments. Then into the void main statement, opening and closing bracket is there, and simple a function call is there, where there is no local variable declaration inside the void main statement. Even there is no output variable declaration inside the void main statement. Now once the function call is done, here there is one mistake. Function, once the function call is there, I have initialized the function. Into the initialization of the function, return type remains the same, where the function prototype is declared. So function return type is void, then the name of function is max, and as we have not passed any actual argument, so no need to declare any dummy arguments. So there is no declaration of dummy argument into the function initialization. Then into the bracket of declared function, 3 local variables I have initialized with integer data type, that is a, b and c, where a, b are the input variable and c is the output variable. After the basic function called CLR I am accepting a false input value from the user and storing that into the variable called a. So say for example, I have entered 8. So this 8 is stored inside the variable called a. Then it will ask for entering the second value. Say for example, suppose I have entered the second value called 5, then it stores inside the variable called b, After that, there is a decision making statement where it checks that the value of A is greater than B. For this inputted value, condition becomes true, so it prints the value of A onto the screen, and the value of A is 8, and as per the definition we need to find out the maximum of two numbers, so 8 will be printed onto the screen. For the cross verification purpose, simply I am interchanging the value of A and B with this. In this case, this condition becomes false, else part is executed and it prints the value of B, that is 8, onto the screen, and 8 is maximum from the entered two numbers. So students, this is the way for creating a program which find out the maximum of two number using function without argument, without return value. I hope all of you get the idea how to implement the code using that particular type. Now let's move on. Simply I am converting this entire code from maximum to minimum. That means right now this program finds out the maximum of two number by simply changing the few information in this entire code. Instead of the maximum, it will find out the minimum of two numbers. So let me go back to the C console and let me change the necessary information. Just observe that what I am changing over there. First, I am changing the name of function from max to min, right? Function name you can kept any, you can take your name as a function name also. Here I am taking a valid, or you can say proper function name for the proper functionality of the entire program. So second change is in function call. As I have changed in function prototype from max to min, function call even need to change from max to min. Second change is into the function call, and the third change is in function initialization. Even I have to change from max to min. Then my variable declaration remains same, input remains same, just I am changing the conditional part of this entire program, where I am using less than relational operator instead of greater than relational operator. And the fourth change that I am doing is into the label of the entire program. That means from maximum I am changing it into the minimum. I am saving all these changes, and let me check for the syntactical error. As you can see that there are no syntactical errors. We can proceed for the execution part of the entire program. Say for example, the first value I am entering 2, which is A, and second value is 9, which is B. As per the condition becomes true, so minimum is 2, should be printed onto the screen. So it prints minimum is 2 onto the screen. Now for the cross verification purpose, first value I am entering 9 and second value I am entering 1. So as per the inputs, condition becomes false, and value 1 is minimum, should be printed onto the screen. So 1 is printed onto the screen. So entire program and its sequence and logical flow is correct as per the definition of the program. Now let's see this particular program in Notepad for better visibility. So I am going into the stored folder of the entire program, that is C drive turbo C, disk turbo C3 bin, and I am opening the stored program into the Notepad. It shows the proper code onto the screen. After the library function, there is a function prototype. In function prototype, without return value is there, so the return type is void. Then the name of function is min. No need to pass any arguments because we have to use without argument, so bracket remains blank. Don't forget to write semicolon after that. Then there is a void main statement. Into the opening and closing bracket, there is a function call. In function call, no external variables output variables, any printf statements are written, just simple blank function call is there, that is min into the bracket and semicolon. Then the third one is function initialization. Into the function initialization there is a return type called void. Then the name of function is min and opening and closing bracket is there. Then into the brackets of function initialization I have declared three local variables called a, b and c, where a and b are the input variable and c is the output variable. After the basic function called clr there are total four statements are there which accept the first and the second value from the user. Then there is a conditional statement which checks which one is the minimum. If a is minimum, then it prints a onto the screen, otherwise it prints b is minimum onto the screen. So we know that programming in C is a procedure oriented programming language. Means what? Every statement will be executed after the first one is completed, where the semicolon is indicated. Again I am repeating my word. Programming in C is a procedure oriented programming language where it indicates that previous statement should be completed before executing the newer statement, but it should be terminated with semicolon. Semicolon is not applicable to some part of the entire program like decision making statement, looping control structures, else part, or whatsoever is concerned, which I am indicating you during the theoretical session. Now, I request all the students just to note down the two definitions which you have to implement, and you have to note it down into the journal for the future purpose. Write a program to find maximum of two numbers using function without argument, without return value. This is my program number 1. Program number 2 is write a program to find minimum of two numbers using function without argument, without return value. So these two programs you have to implement by yourself, which I have already done in this session, and then you have to write down into the journals. Now let's move on for some another example, because we have kept common examples in overflow types. I would like to implement some another code for all of you. Next definition of the program is write a program to find number is positive or negative using the last type of function, that is function without argument, without return value. So let me write that program over here. First the return type is void. Then here I am giving the name of function is my name, that is Gaurav. Then followed by semicolon. This statement is called as function prototype. Then there is a void main, or you can say the main executable statement of the code. In that I am just calling the function without any arguments or without any return type. Let me write into the commented section function call. Then there is a third phase of this entire program, that is function initialization. Once the function initialization is done, as per the program's need, it requires only the single variable. Here I am declaring the single variable called a. Then there is a basic function called clr. Then there is an input message that enter your value, scanf. percentage %d n percent a. If a is greater than 0, that means if the value of a is greater than 0, then output message is positive, that means the value is positive. Else it prints the message onto the screen negative. And after the closing bracket of else statement, there is a basic function called getch. Let's execute the code. There are no syntactical errors. Let me run the code. Say for example I am entering 5. So as per the logic, positive output should be there onto the screen. So it's there onto the screen. Let me rerun the code, and I am entering -3. Condition becomes false and the output should be negative onto the screen. It's there onto the screen. So as per the logical flow of the entire program, every sequence, every instruction set is correct and the entire program is correct. Let's see this code into the notepad for better visibility. This is the entire code. As you can see that after the declaration of library functions, first I have declared the function prototype where the return type is without, so I have mentioned void. Then the name of function is this one. No need to pass any argument as per the requirement, so bracket remains blank. It creates a function prototype. Then into the void main statement there is an opening and closing bracket. In that opening and closing bracket there is a function call, where in this void main statement there is no local variable declaration is there. Then after the function call there is a function initialization. In this function initialization, return types remain same which we have declared into the void main statement, that is void. Then the name of function and bracket remains blank because we are using function without argument type. Then into the opening and closing bracket, first a local variable I have declared called a. Then there is a CLR function. Printf enter your value, which indicates user to enter their value for the checking purpose. Whatever the value inputted by the user stores inside the variable called a. For our testing purpose, say for example I am entering 5, so 5 is stored inside a. Then it checks the condition 5 is greater than 0. Yes, 5 is greater than 0. Then it prints positive onto the screen. That means the value is positive. Instead of this 5, say for example I have entered -4. Then this condition becomes false, else part is executed and it prints a message onto the screen that is negative. So in this way, multiple definitions we can create and implement for our testing purpose. I hope all of you have a clear idea about how can we implement a function, or you can say the UDF with function without argument, without return value. Now I am giving you some exercises which you have to implement by yourself, and then you have to write into the journal. So just note down all that definitions. Write a program to check number is odd or even using function without argument, without return value. just refer my lectures of decision making statement called if else, in which we have already implemented a program which find out odd even. How to find out odd even? You have to just convert it into the UDF, right? So write a program to check number is odd or even using function without argument without return value. Next, write a program which accept the number from user and check. Write a program write a program write a program which accept, sorry, there is some mistake in my program. Write a program which accept the number from user and check whether it is divisible by 2 or not, and if it is divisible by 2, it prints good morning, otherwise it print good night. Implement this code using function without argument without return value, right? A little bit bigger definition is there, but the functionality is very simple. If you are able to complete the first program, then it's very easy to implement the second code, because the logic is carry forwarded into the second program. Kindly ignore if any spelling mistake is there into the definition. Third one is write a program to print 1 to 5 number using loop and create UDF with function without argument without return value. This is the third program where you have to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 using loop for the type of UDF, that is function without argument without return value. Now once you complete these three, that's it. I am just giving you the three exercises that you have to perform by yourself at your home. But once you finish the third exercise, right, again listen it very carefully. Once you finish the third exercise which prints 1 to 5 number, it's very easy. Just refer my session of looping control structure for 4, where the first program that we have implemented is to print the 1 to 5 number using for loop. Same logic is carry forwarded in this particular program. Once the third definition is done, try to implement the same program. That means write a program to print 1 to 5 number using loop and create UDF with function and use function type called function with argument with return value. Let me explain you it properly. we have to print 1 to 5 numbers, but we have to use function with argument with return value, which is our first type that we have declared in this UDF session. Here, whenever you try to implement this definition, you will get a one problem. This program cannot be implemented. You will get a one problem. Problem is what? It only prints 1 onto the screen. Your every statement is correct, as there are no syntactical errors, as there are no logical errors, still it will print 1. Why? So that why we'll discuss in our next lecture. So I hope all of you got the idea that what I want to convey with all of you. Just try yourself first implementing the previous 3 definitions and try to implement the last definition with function argument with return value. In that you will get a one problem. If that problem is 1, we'll solve that why it gives only 1. So that question marks I would to carry forward into for my next lecture. So wait for that. Thank you very much students for listening me and have a nice day.